Hi, Pete. Hi, Kelvin.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you.
Nice to have you.
Thank you very much.
We start in 9 minutes.
Okay, I just thought I'd just make sure I get in. I've just come off another all-day session, so I just wanted to check that everything is working. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm going to go on to mute.
Hello. Pete, can you hear us? It would be really nice if we can see your face. Do you mind if I use my phone? Because I can't really hear from yours. You might. I'm going to mute. Okay, so I think we're just waiting for one more panelist and then we'll get started. So once he joins, we can all put our videos on. Hi guys, so due to time, I think we can just begin. I see we already have attendees coming in. So first things first, I'd love to welcome you all to our third episode of Corporate Unwind. My name is Anna Chinyoyo. I'm a program associate at SmartLab, and I'll be your MC for today's event. To the ones that are new to our events, SmartLab's Corporate Unwind is an event where SmartLab invites influential leaders from top corporates to share their knowledge about business and different hacks they use to stay on top of their game. In addition to that, SmartLab runs various programs and activities in efforts to empower learning institutions to create solutions that meet the community needs through professional guidance and most of all connecting them with corporates. We have various programs and activities that help us achieve this mission. The first one is Accelerators. They are designed to help startups scale up their ventures through deep engagement with corporates that want to drive innovation. We have had one very successful accelerator with Vodacom, the Vodacom Digital Accelerator, that began late last year in September, and it has been a success. We're in the last stages of the accelerator, and we hope to keep engaging more corporates with the Tanzanian innovation ecosystem through programs like the accelerators. Apart from that, we also have SmartLab Talent. This is a program where we work with corporates to help them get great tech talents. So we help them by providing talent that we think is top-notch in technology. And we do this through our collective experience because we have been dealing with technology and tech talent for a very long time. On top of that, we have University Outreach Program. This is a program that links learning institutions and corporates. So we seek to implement that through the program. It's a free program for students. They learn different courses. We deal with university students that are based or pursuing technology and engineering courses. We are currently running a program with HJF and UKAIDS. We aim at reaching as many students as possible to instill employability skills and an innovation mindset for tech students. Apart from that, we have introduced Smart Foundry. This is a platform where we seek to help corporates create the best tech products, and we're looking forward to working with as many corporates as possible to just push innovation and technology in Tanzania to match the increasing technological advancements in the world. Other than that, we have events that include Corporate Unwind, which we're doing today. And we are hoping to keep engaging with you guys. Just to sum up my introduction of SmartLab, I would love to introduce our moderator for today. Our moderator for the event today is Rachel Zengi, our lab manager, who will be facilitating the discussion on how digital transformation is changing the banking industry in Tanzania. Rachel, karibu.
Thank you, Anna, for that lovely introduction. Welcome all viewers and esteemed panelists to our third Corporate Unwind event. So just to recap on the topic for this event, how digital transformation is changing the banking industry in Tanzania. So most corporates can agree that growing need for digital transformation has had a significant impact in Tanzanian industry, mainly the financial industry. So, and a result of this trend, banks are now developing and planning new digital transformation strategies to better grow their customer base and also create better products or services for their customers. So our esteemed panelists who will share insights around this discussion are none other than Kevin Wingfield, the CEO of Stanbic Bank Tanzania, and Pete Novat, the Chief of Technology and Digital Transformation Officer at NMB. Welcome all. We are so happy to have you here in this discussion.
Hi, Rachel. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Rachel, very good to see you again and happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so to kick off the discussion, I'm going to direct the first question to Kevin at Stanbank. Having had ample experience in different African countries, do you believe that digital transformation in Africa is a key factor in financial inclusion? And just to add to that, where do you see Tanzania going in regards of developing new strategies for financial inclusion?
Okay, so thanks, Rachel, and good afternoon to everybody. Well, I guess it's almost evening now, but thanks very much again for having me. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, I think the obvious answer is absolutely. Digitization is critical in driving financial inclusion, and I think one doesn't matter where you go in the world, but I think I think Africa's our continent's a great example where if you look at traditional banking historically, and even still, I think very much today, most financial or traditional banks have focused on a very, very narrow market segment. So really at the top end of the triangle, and really, I guess that's been largely, I think, driven by access and cost. And those, I think, have been the two drivers around a lack of financial inclusion. There are other things, we can talk about regulation, we can talk about education and all of those things. But I think in terms of what we can control directly, it's been access and cost. So I think, the digital transforms that in the fact that now people do have access. And I guess the thing, the technology for me that's really transformed that, and I think it's obvious, is mobile technology, because I think that's really the technology that has transformed people's access to financial services. But having said that, I think there's still, we really have hardly touched or scratched the surface. I think, if we look at Tanzania specifically, we're seeing, I think if we look at the Bank of Tanzania report that came out, the annual report that came out last year, we've seen a significant increase in access to financial services by the adult population. I think moving from somewhere around 65% to around about 86%. It's an interesting number for me. It seems very high, but that's the official number. But I think there's still a lot that we need to do. And as traditional financial services, I think where we're seeing we're seeing a big difference is in terms of the non-traditional financial services, in terms of mobile operators, etc., providing access to financial services. I think we as banks have a lot of work to do still to provide real access to financial services. Digitization is we're seeing it a little bit in terms of beginning to provide basic access, but again, a lot of that is still to our traditional customer base. And I think the last comment that I want to make is that a lot of what we've done around digitization has really just been taking traditional banking products and offering them through traditional channels. Non-traditional, digital channels. I think what we really need to start doing as banks is really, really getting much closer to our customers. And when I say customers, I mean a much broader base of customers, not just that narrow bit of the pyramid. And how do we really understand what our customers need, and how do we really start, through technology, delivering value to those customers?
Okay, thank you so much, Kevin, for that really insightful answer. I think I also like to ask Pete, as Kevin had commented that mobile technologies transforming financial services in Africa and also in Tanzania. Which mobile technologies or digital channels do you think has changed the banking industry in Tanzania currently? And also, which technologies do you foresee coming in the industry in the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. And yeah, so, sometimes when we talk about, digital transformation, maybe just also, it's good to get the feel of, sometimes, what does it mean to us as banks or financial service providers. So when we link this to the digital transformation, actually, you will be surprised, I'm not sure if we should continue calling this industry the banking industry, or now it's time to move it to the digital finance industry. What is coincidentally enough, here now even the central bank, the DOT start calling the banks as the digital financial service provider, which is, quite interesting. So, yes, I hear your question, but maybe I'm not sure if you expect me to talk about, the technologies which sometimes we call it digital technologies, digital to the core. Digital to the core, you're talking about, your core banking system, your lending platforms, your card processing technologies, etc., etc. But maybe, those have a contribution to the digital transformation. But, I believe probably we need to refer more to the digital technologies of the new way. As it was mentioned, mobile banking, sometimes it's, when you talk about digital transformation, maybe mobile banking is one, but, we probably need to refer to the technologies that drives the channel platforms or the digital on the channel systems. I think mobile is big, and if you look on our continent or specific Tanzania, we have a unique way of how we have transformed the industry using what is called the USSD technology. If you go outside Africa, probably they'll be wondering what I'm talking about on the USSD, but this really has transformed since, it's not only about MNOs, but now there's even the banks and the fintechs, they're using the USSD technology, to deliver the financial services. Obvious, the app is coming up faster, as the penetration of the smartphones getting into the market with cheaper price and everything else. But, definitely that is, Africa has been actually, from my point of view, I think a bit slow to get into the internet banking, and I think that's not by design. We kind somehow jumped that stage, but for the corporates, I think it's, we have seen over a couple of years, 2 to 3 years back, where, the internet banking is the technologies which most corporates are using now to integrate with their own platforms so that they can do financial services at their desk without leaving their desk. Instead of going to the bank to post checks and do transfers, there's a very sophisticated integration which are happening with the internet banking to be able to deliver, what we call proper corporate self-service platforms. But behind the scene, you still have things, like payment gateways, delivering, basic e-commerce. The government implementation of the GPG platform for billers and payments has been wonderful. All these technologies, they are transforming how the financial service is being, delivered to the final consumers. Speaking to the banks, now you hear there's a big move from, the point of sale, the hardware, to QR codes. The QR codes are moving even to the soft QR codes, where they can be displayed on the phone and they can be scanned for payments, etc., etc. So there is plenty of technologies. But okay, as banks and financial talking about credit, credit scoring platforms driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning, they are penetrating into the market. Both cloud-based and on-premises. We've seen a lot of those. So yeah, it's big. Sometimes people want to talk about the those technology, which from my perspective, the use has not been realized quite well. For example, blockchain. Yes, blockchain. Everyone wants to hear. It's a buzzword. It's a technology buzzword, but I think the actual delivery in terms of how we use it on the delivering financial service program has not really penetrated into this market. So yeah, that's what I can talk about when we talk about the tools and technologies, probably delivering the digital finance in the Tanzania market. Rachel.
Okay. It's really funny that you also mentioned artificial intelligence and machine learning. When do you foresee machine learning being implemented into the banking industry in Tanzania? And in which operations do you think they will impact on, like operational models within the banks? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm quite interested in reading those technologies, specific, around artificial intelligence and machine learning. But if you think about it, these technologies in one way or another, we already started using those technologies. Sometimes when we speak about machine learning and AI, there's a thinking that those are very complex, technologies. But think of Google Maps. How many people are using Google Maps to estimate time and commit on arrival time just using Google Maps? What's behind the Google Map and those estimates and the traffic and everything, just basically ML, machine learning. Uber, how many people every day, they're getting their quote of travel, on Uber. I'm not sure if people sometimes note that actually you are pricing for the same destination at different time will be different. Maybe in Africa we're not there yet, where the calculations can be based on the traffic and the good estimate, but it's already in use. The target marketing on Instagram and Facebook and all these channels. When you hear people say, when you go to Instagram, let's say you want to do a target market and you are asked to choose, would you want to publish this to the buyers of the service of similar interests? How do they know about those similar interests? It's basically machine learning behind the scene. But from the bank perspective, this is going to be a technology which will probably need more for the future. Yes, it's still already in use. When you start talking about lending, lending and credit scoring, there is algorithms out there, already giving, very good credit scoring assurance. I know one of the credit scoring entity, I can't remember whether it's Experian or Equifax or something, but using the advanced thick or AI, ML algorithms, they can give you assurance that if somebody used the scoring to give a loan in New York, they give you a guarantee of about 96% that somebody will bring back the money. What is behind that is a lot of actually big data, a combination of big data, AI, and ML. Now, all these are coming. If you start talking about medical, in Africa, I think we know for sure we don't have enough doctors to, service the whole Africa. But there is technologies already there now being tested, to do what is called computer-aided diagnostic pilots are already happening in some countries, Zambia, Nigeria, etc. So yes, it is happening, and it's happening faster than, if you ask me, I think it's happening faster more than it's expected. And the use is definitely going to really exponentially grow. So that's my
Okay. Kevin, so we have a really nice question from a panelist here. So do you believe that the country's regulators or regulation authorities is creating a fair environment for the growth of this trend for digital transformation here in Tanzania?
Interesting question, Rachel. I mean, I think I think all regulators and the regulator here are fully aware that if one is going to create or achieve successful financial inclusion, we have to make sure that it's not just regulations; it's many things that need to enable and support the execution of the various things that need to be done to achieve financial inclusion and a deeper penetration. So, I mean, I think we can sit back and say, well, there are slightly different regulatory environments depending on where you sit. But I think what we've got to do is work with all the various stakeholders to create the right environment that will propel an ability for us to provide the solutions that customers need, so that we can embed ourselves in supporting their objectives. And as I say, it's not just about thinking about their financial objectives. It's actually much more around how do we embed ourselves in supporting their life journey or their business journey or whatever it might be. So it's going back to a deeper understanding of our customers, what's important to them, and then making sure that we build solutions that meet those requirements. And as we do that, I guess it's incumbent on us to engage all the various stakeholders, regulators being one of them, to ensure that they are supporting us and that we're taking them along, and sometimes that they're taking us along. But I think if we just go earlier this week, we had as an industry we launched the Nico Fiti, the financial education and inclusion initiative that the Tanzania Banks Association is driving for the next 6 months. And there, I think the guest speaker, the Deputy Governor, was very clear that the regulator is absolutely on board in terms of supporting these initiatives. Rachel, can you hear me? Rachel?
I think Rachel might be experiencing some technical problems.
Okay.
I can hear you very well, but I hope probably she has some connectivity problems.
Let's give her a second.
I think that was on my end. Sorry about that.
It's fine, Rachel.
Okay, so I think I was asking Pete, do you have anything to add on to how the regulators in Tanzania are currently helping us achieve digital transformation? or creating a fair environment for that matter.
Now, Rachel, I think as I mentioned when I was starting talking, I think to me the regulations, the regulator specific, they are really working hard to move to what now is called the digital economy. I could see that, definitely you can see the support for the digital transformation from the regulation point of view. Yes, we still need to be, as banks or financial institutions, we have the risk to deal with, but the support from the regulator seems to be, there's an appetite to really move into that. I was in one meeting talking about the future implementation or the planned implementation of the payment platform. I'm not sure if it's okay to mention it here, but there was a plan to implement the platform which will connect all the digital financial service providers, and that's some thinking to the next level where you want to transform all the financial transactions to happen seamlessly, and obviously we know that in one way or another that will drive the financial inclusion, because then we'll start regulating the transaction fees, etc., etc. So there's all indication from my point of view that the regulator and the regulation, there will be another reviews, really support the digital economy and then transforming into digital financial service provisions.
Okay, that's a fair enough answer. Okay, so in terms of customer experiences, do you think the banks in Tanzania or the financial industry overall is quickly moving from more a transaction-based model to building products and services around customer experiences exclusively?
Rachel, who's that question to? You're on mute.
For Kevin, apologies.
Okay. I think the reality is that customers' preferences and requirements are evolving very rapidly. The reality is our customers now are shopping, they're socializing, they're hanging out in very different places to what they were 5-10 years ago. And I think we have to evolve with them to make sure that we remain. Well, not even remain. I think we become relevant for our customers. So I think that really requires that we engage much more aggressively. We need to, I think, become absolutely, and this is not unique to banking, but those organizations that are going to win are those that are absolutely customer obsessed, really understand what their customers need, and are able to deliver solutions that meet those customer requirements. And if you look at some of the big tech, whether it's Amazon or Google or Alibaba or whatever, that's what they've done really successfully, is they've really understood what their customer needs and they've delivered on that. I think the other thing is that they've made sure that it's easy to access and it's easy to use. I think as traditional banks, we still think like bankers. We need to now, in the new world, we need to put our banking hats aside, and we actually have to think very differently in terms, what you are seeing globally is many banks moving away from seeing themselves as a traditional bank and starting to see themselves as a technology company that offers banking products as one of the things that you offer. But I think what we're really good at as financial institutions is managing risk, etc. And we can use those core capabilities to venture into other areas and start providing a holistic delivery and solution and value to customers.
Okay, I think Pete, you also want to add on to something. I saw you smiling, so I think you also agreed with Kevin. Do you have something to add?
It's very interesting conversation when you start talking about how do we move from the transactional based to build the models around the customer needs. Unfortunately or fortunately, I think this demand is coming out quicker than the banks can catch up. I think we need to catch up very, very quickly. The customers are already demanding unique solutions and not bundled products, to the customer. They already know, some of these bundled products or services, they come at very, very high cost. So, essentially, and these, if you might call it debundling of all these services, it's enabled by, really technological innovations which are happening today. Specific data. You have heard about IoTs and where the collection of data is happening all over the places, and those data are using advanced technologies. They're able to get customer insight and be able to deliver the unique products to customers. Still, that's why, from my point of view, I think banks is still, as banks, because there's a lot of work we need to do, to build these capabilities, target marketing, why would you come to me or to, if I have a pharmacy, I'm doing a pharmacy business, how do you come to me to market or show the price of metabars in China? We will allow customer, to configure their products according to their needs. There's some companies in South Africa, I think, an insurance company issuing insurance for only the time you drive the car. Why would I need to insurance which covers the 24 hours while I drive the car for 3 hours? Why do I need to pay for those hours where I'm not driving the car and maybe I'm not really at risk of I would try to pay. So especially if you think of, I think banks and we already enormous amount of data, and we just need to build the capabilities where we are able to do deep analytics on those data and be able to probably starting delivering the unique products, unique solutions to the customer rather than bundling. There is already technology companies already doing that, and that's why, from my perspective, I think the banks, we are lagging behind on this, but we really need to build those capabilities.
Okay. So also in the light of COVID, what do you think have been the major challenges for financial industries or financial institutions in Tanzania as well as in Africa? I think a lot of people have seen like how US is doing, but not a lot of people have been really talking about what is happening in Africa, and especially in Tanzania and how we faced the pandemic. So what is your take on that? We can start with Kevin and then go to Pete.
So yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that first of all, I think it took all of us by it was a shock to the system, but I think we broadly, I think in many cases we weathered the storm quite well. I think as financial institutions, we were able to actually be quite resilient in terms of how we reorganized ourselves to be able to service our customers. And when I say service our customers, service our traditional customers. What we have seen clearly is that there's been a much bigger willingness for customers to switch to digital services, to access products and services through digital, whether that's banking services, whether that's buying consumer products, food, whatever it might be. I think people were forced to really start saying, well, how do I use these capabilities if I have not in the past? So I think this has helped us as an industry to start getting more and more customers aware of what is actually out there and what's available. Certainly, we saw the volumes of digital transactions increase substantially across our different channels, and I think that's definitely here. That's with us it's here to stay. But I think what we now need to do is to say, how do we now really move that forward quickly? We've kind of got some momentum. How do we keep that momentum going now? And move from just providing those basic banking products on digital channels to saying, how do we really, as I say, insert ourselves in customers' lives? So if we just take a simple ecosystem like buying a property, buying a house, customer doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I need to go and get a mortgage. They wake up in the morning and they say, I need to find a place to live. So how do we, as play a much bigger role in that? Not be just the single product provider somewhere down that ecosystem, and then hope that the customer comes to us to ask us for a mortgage. How do we provide that customer with everything they need to do right through that journey of buying a house or buying a property? Provide access to properties for sale. Give them a sense of what areas are in their price range. Give them a sense of what is a fair price. Give them access to agents. Make them feel that the people they're dealing with are secure, that they're dealing with people they can trust. I think those are the things that if we're going to be successful, we need to be doing a lot more of, and do it a lot more effectively. And digitization and technology will allow us to do that. So, we can talk a lot about technology, and we talk about AI, and we talk about cloud, and we talk about all of those things. But it's not about the technology. The technology is really just a means to provide what customers really need.
Pete, do you have anything to add to that?
I think from my perspective, Kevin has covered it very well. But just maybe to add what Africa, to me, I would say, we a unique advantage, maybe because of our low financial inclusion, because a lot of people already pushed into using these digital channels. I spoke of the USSD and how much money are moving through the USSD technology. It's quite a big, substantial number. So yes, it is true that and some, the volumes which are being moved around these channels have increased a bit to a bit. It's fine, but this also gives a different picture in terms of how the environment can adapt so quickly. Look at these meetings today happening on Zoom. Look, a couple of AGMs, with attendance. I'll give an example where I work now in NMB. The first AGM which subscribed more than the normal AGMs before COVID. So that means that actually, people are ready for this transformation, and actually COVID, yes, there's a negative side, but it helps us to define also the new norms, and something we will see probably changing some of the way of working. post-COVID for Tanzania, thanks God, we already about post-COVID, because everybody's back in the office and everything, but people continue working the same way for COVID? Probably not. Working from home now will become a norm for other companies, because technologies were there to provide these capabilities, but probably there was no push or appetite to move quickly into those spaces. So from the impact from the consumer perspective, I would say we are lucky probably because of previous problems in this region, financial inclusion being one. And so these capabilities to be able to self-service financial transactions already built, already there. We didn't have to build mobile banking, we didn't have to build USSD, so all these were already in place. And somehow you could see that the impact, to the banks and transactions, the customer were, not that big, so yeah, that's probably what I can add from also what Kevin said.
Okay. We have another question from a panelist. So can the panelists please break down the terms like digital transformation and financial exclusivity in terms of their own institutional mandates? Pete, would you like to start?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So can you break down the terms like digital transformation or financial inclusivity in terms of your own institutional mandate?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand the question very well, but digital transformation to me, basically it's a rapid change, towards the digital-driven services or digital-driven financial service delivery. So, and other ways, so you say probably it's a new way of working. It's a new way of doing business. And so now how this links to the financial inclusion, Kevin, I think, spoke about it, but if I think of Tanzania today, and from our mandates as bank, can you imagine, a situation, where, let's say, before the introduction of agent banking, for example, in Tanzania, currently, NMB, they said all Africa costs 7,000, and another banks for 10,000. I don't know how many of those agents are in the country. Probably a couple of thousands. Can you imagine a situation where all these transactions which are happening on the agents banking, they have to go back to the branches? Today, I think if you look from TCRA perspective, there is roughly 280 million transactions per month, of roughly more than 10 trillion shillings happening to the MNOs, wallets, digital wallets, banks, I don't know about other banks, but, for example, I know, for example, we already NMB doing more than, 93% of transactions outside the branches. So, to me, from our mandates as bank, the digital transformation is really pushing the financial inclusion, because a lot of mass have access now to these services through either self-service channels or through partially assisted channels, for example, the agent banking. Then at least if you have to access those the digital channels or transaction channels, in one way or another, you should have your KYC done, you should have your mobile working, and you should be able to keep your money in a wallet or the bank, etc., etc. So really, these implementations and the push of mass outside the branches, it's really driving that financial inclusion. So probably that's what I can comment on that question.
Okay. Kevin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in terms of digitization and for me, digitization in terms of often the way we speak about it is really just taking our traditional offerings and delivering them through electronic means and so on. Whereas I think if we're going to really be relevant going forward, we need to really embark on digital transformation, which is quite a different thing. It's not just about technology. It's about reimagining and reinventing the organization as a whole. So it touches on things like your business model. It touches on your culture. It touches on the people. So how are you going to make your people future ready, for example? So it's much more. It's much bigger than just saying, well, we're going to add some technology that allows us to deliver our products in not through a physical means, but through a digital means. And so I think as banks, if we're going to, one, as I say, be really relevant to our customers, and two, be able to ensure that we remain around, because we're seeing a lot of these non-traditional competitors coming and playing in our space, whether it's big tech, whether it's fintech, whether it's the MNOs, whatever it is. If we don't transform ourselves as an industry, we're going to continually see those non-traditional competitors move further and further into what has been our traditional domain. And I keep going back to it, but the first thing is really, when you talk about digital transformation, it's really it's about how you get much closer to your customer. And then the ultimate kind of journey that you're going to go on is to say, and it's the point I made earlier, how do you move away from just delivering traditional banking products in a different way to actually delivering value to a customer across the entire ecosystem? And it's almost moving from how are we a shop? So currently we're a shop and we sell financial services products. How do we become the marketplace, where we don't just sell the financial services, we sell the entire package to a customer? But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we become all things to all people. So back to the question around how do we think about it as an organization? So you cannot compete in every space. So I think you have to be very clear about where you want to compete. And so where we're beginning to think about it is to say, where do we think the opportunities are of value? So which ecosystems are really valuable in our context? So I guess if you think about it, in Tanzania, agriculture is a huge ecosystem and value chain on its own. Education is another one. Transport and logistics is another. So how do you start thinking about those, and then how do you make sure that you can be relevant for customers right through that value chain?
Okay, that's a very fair point. Okay, so I think the last question, having this trend, especially here at COVID, and financial institutions now in Tanzania have becoming really resilient. Which digital technologies do you foresee coming in 5 or 10 years that will definitely shake financial institutions, but also make the industry for the better for both consumers and corporates? Kevin, you can start.
Okay, so I think, as I said earlier, for me, technology is a means to an end. So it helps one deliver what more effectively and efficiently and etc. that what customers need. And we talked about machine learning and AI earlier. At the end of the day, I made the point: customers are demanding different services. They're living their lives in a different way increasingly. And they're becoming the customer of one. So everybody wants delivered to them exactly what they want at the right time, at the right place, etc. And that's where the likes of using, for example, machine learning and AI can help. The point was made earlier that we're already in our industry here today, we're already using some of those capabilities in terms of, for example, delivering credit to customers. We score them real time based on various dimensions. We try and foresee when they need to be delivered, that credit needs to be delivered to them. So those technologies are already here. It's not going to be 5 years, in the making. We already have a number of use cases where we're using them. We have some pilots that we're running at the moment in different countries as a Standard Bank group, where, for example, we're using digital technology, but we're using satellite, we're using GPS coordinates, etc., to provide lending services to small-scale farmers, for example, being able to see, map out their land, being able to see exactly, whether they've tilled the land, being able to see when they plant, being able to see whether the crop's growing, being able to judge way beforehand what we think the yield's going to be. So all of these technologies are already being used. I guess it's how we scale those technologies and how we apply them effectively to, as I say, back to real customer use cases. Because we can introduce all these technologies, but if they're not really solving for a customer need, they're not going to be successful. I think the other one that's a key technology that again is already in use is cloud, for example. So as an organization, increasingly all of our capabilities are on the cloud. And what does that bring? That brings agility and flexibility. It means that you can deliver to customers very quickly because you can be much more agile in the way you deliver services to customers. So I think there's a lot of these technologies that that are here, and there are use cases for all of them. But I guess as an industry, it's how we then deploy those in a way that meets customer need, real customer need.
Okay. There was also an interesting question that actually touched your response. So from Adam, said that there is a fear that digitization provides monetary terms that have no real value when it comes to saving for the future. How would you then assure your customers that they can have security in their saving against devaluation and fraud with digitization regarding that? Pete, looks like you have an answer.
No, there is, to be honest, there is no quick answer, but there can be some descriptions of what it is. I hear too devaluation and security, which so for example, the security to me, it's one big component when the digital transformation should go together with security, because if not, then the whole industry will have a big problem. So if you think of what's happening with all the digitizations, we started talking, and it was mentioned previously about some of the advanced fraud management systems which are based on, again, going back to the same type of technology. using big data, machine learning, and AI to be able to secure, to provide security around the deposits from the bank's perspective, or the transfers and the transactions which are happening on the digital channels. So essentially, the security and digital transformation, they go together. There is no way you're gonna spend on developing mobile solutions and everything else at the same time. You can't guarantee security around those. We have seen cases where each build has its own how would I would say define algorithms which defend several cyber attacks, but they still some ways also to invest on capabilities to do the monitoring. So the digital transformation comes with all those, unfortunately, back-end platforms which need to be built to provide that assurance that customers will be safe from the financial losses, from data losses, etc., etc. So, in my view, the two goes together. You can't do one without the other.
And Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot to add, Rachel, but obviously security and risk management is paramount, and as we build and as we build a digital world, and as we go through digital transformation, it becomes a lot more complex. But I think as an industry, this is what we do. We really focus a lot. We invest a huge amount in risk management and in managing fraud and making sure that we protect our customers' money, and we'll continue to do that. I mean, I think and the technologies that we've been talking about today, many of those are adding, I think we touched on it, machine learning, etc. All of those allow us to much better be able to be proactive in terms of how we manage risk and fraud, rather than reactive, which is where we were, if you go back a few years. So all of these technologies do really help us to manage our risk and manage fraud and manage security. Just in terms of the other piece of that question, which was really about how do we protect people's savings, and I think the idea that we move away from just offering a narrow band of traditional banking products as we become move away from being a traditional financial services organization to being much more open, more collaborative, forming partnerships, etc. It means that we're able to offer our customers a much broader basket of offerings and services and products that give them a much bigger choice in terms of how they can manage their own financial outcomes. And just as an organization ourselves, we've got a financial fitness academy, for example, that we actually run with our staff, but we also run with customers in terms of corporates or commercial customers, and we run it with their staff to say, this is how you need to think about your financial well-being, and that's run through technology. It's done, it's virtual webinars. It takes you through a live process on an app that you go through to assess your current financial health as an individual, as a family, and it helps you then identify potential behaviors and potential products and services that you can access that can get you on track in terms of your future financial journey. So I think technologies really will open up a whole different opportunity for people to manage their personal lifestyles and their wealth journey through their through its evolution.
Okay. That's great. So we have just like one last question, and I think it's kind of an interesting one. From Kevin, what policies are you putting in place to help developers scale your services to more users? Recently, Vodacom had witnessed that M-Pesa had opened up their APIs. So what is NNB and Stanbank currently doing? We can start with NNB.
Okay, so Rachel, now you want us to reveal all the strategy planning and everything.
I think I mean more of like top level. You don't have to tell us everything. We just talked about risk and security.
I think you know, Vodacom already released the API for the people to develop, you know, and be able to consume, you know, their platforms as a service or the service which they have. You know, as banks, we're already moving into that direction as well. You know, we're already piloting some of the sandboxes to allow, you know, the fintechs and the developers to connect to our sandbox and be able to, you know, to test some of the services which we will expose, you know, through this. We haven't opened it for public yet, but we, you know, we are doing some tests internal to make sure that, you know, again, being banks, be regulated, and we just need to make sure that, you know, we just don't expose the services which opens up access to customer data, etc. So there is work taking place behind the scene, but soon we'll be opening up those sandboxes for developers and fintechs to be able to, you know, use them and, you know, consume some of the services which we already have in the banking space.
Okay. And Kevin, you don't have to tell us your secrets. You can just tell us top level.
No, I mean, I think, you know, the reality is that I think by what I've spoken about in terms of how we're thinking about our business models and how we want to position ourselves as an institution going forward, there's no doubt that collaboration, partnerships, etc., are going to be paramount in delivering value to customers, and without having, you know, open systems where it is easy for third parties to plug in, for you to plug into third parties as well, because it's reciprocal. It's not necessarily one way. You know, you cannot create an effective offering to customers that's going to meet them where they want to be met. So I think we certainly, as a banking group, are well down that journey. Some of the technology we've chatted around in terms of cloud, etc., will enable that journey to happen faster. I think traditionally as banks, you know, we've been quite restricted because of, you know, we've got these legacy core banking systems, etc., that are not easy to plug into. Obviously, we spoke about security earlier. That's paramount. So we need to make sure that we maintain, you know, as we go down this road, that we ensure that risk management remains, you know, top of mind. But there is no doubt that we will be, you know, partnering and collaborating and allowing different partners to plug into our systems and infrastructure to support. But as I say, it's not just about the technology. It's actually about how you come together to deliver solutions to real customer pain points.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kevin, for that really insightful answer. So I think we've reached our mark. If there's anything that you'd like to add to this discussion, please do it now. But I think I'm gonna let you guys go off and just end with Anna.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you guys for such an insightful discussion. First things first, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who joined us today on behalf of the Smart team. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the great questions and the contributions. I believe we have all gotten some amazing insights out of the event. I would like to also extend my sincere gratitude to our esteemed speakers. Thank you for joining us despite your very tight schedules, and thank you for sharing a lot of knowledge. We've gotten a lot out of this discussion. We hope to keep hosting more events like this where we can get to interact with leaders in the Tanzanian ecosystem, but also share insights that are going to help transform businesses and innovation and technology in Tanzania. And lastly, I would like to wish you all a very nice evening and hope to keep interacting with you in our coming events. We have founders coming soon. I'm hoping to see you guys and share a lot of things and insights and connect through the event. And also, we'd like to see ourselves involving and engaging with you guys in our programs because we have amazing programs that are coming, as I mentioned before. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, guys. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, Reg. Thanks, Anna. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.